Good evening, everyone. This is Mitch. Hope you guys have been having a great Thursday as we're about to enter our way into our Friday and make it into the weekend. Some things are about to change. I really think we're about to enter a much more active pattern as far as storm systems. And really, it starts with severe weather potentially this Saturday, and then maybe another round of severe weather into Sunday. And then we'll watch early week for some severe weather also. But really what we're eyeing down this video and what we're going to really talk about the most is the potential for an Arctic outbreak as far as very cold air below average temperatures that begin to leak and kind of bleed into the lower 48. This could affect everybody in the lower 48 and eventually make its way into the eastern U.S. as we get into about mid-month. There is remarkable agreement on this, and that's why, you never plant too early. It doesn't matter if you get 10 days straight of 80 degrees or higher temperatures and you live in the south. For 10 days straight in March. Do not plant early. You got to wait. But that's what we're going to talk about. I really think there's this chance for a significant storm system sometime around mid-month also. And we're going to take a peek at that also. So if you guys have not subscribed, definitely consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. The growth during these really slow periods mean obviously a lot because when it's slower, it's hard to get, obviously, growth. So I appreciate people who continue to tune in regardless if the weather's busy or not. Hit me up on social media here. It's a great way to stay up to date with the latest and greatest. I got a Twitter and Facebook link over there that I stay very active on. And most importantly, guys, if you guys got anything I can pray about, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it. It gives others an opportunity to do so too. If it's unspoken, put that. We all can look out for one another here and glorify God doing it. So let's rock and roll here. So let's briefly talk about the storm potential, the severe weather potential as we're getting into Saturday. And then, we're not really going to talk much on that Sunday threat. I'm going to just briefly for a minute or two talk about this. There's a slight risk up for Saturday, a Saturday morning and a Sunday morning. And it's really a quick moving system that's going to be the kind of the first of many systems that really eject itself along this boundary, a cold front that's going to have a tight gradient between two different air masses setting up over the middle of the country. You have a slight risk, and this is mainly for damaging winds. But there's going to be a chance for a quick spin up with storms that are going to be moving very quickly. So watch out Des Moines, northern sections of Missouri, even in this marginal risk down here in Kansas City. If any storms develop down here in the southern section of the severe weather area, there's a chance for large hail. So let's take a look what the latest NAM is showing. So we're starting off by about 3 p.m. Saturday. And here comes the low pressure shooting across northwest Iowa. Of course, if you're north of that low pressure, the severe weather threat really isn't there at all. That's on the cold side of the storm. So you have a decent winter weather event breaking out over portions of South Dakota, moving into Minnesota. Maybe a little winter weather is going to be very close for areas like Minneapolis and things like that. But there's going to be a quick moving line of severe storms. And, are they going to be kind of a line of discrete broken up lines of storms? What are they going to be? Well, that's still a big question. Cape values estimated to be maybe 500, 750 joules per kilogram, but some models are starting to tick higher as they normally do when we get into short range of these severe weather threats. If you get Cape values pushing over 1,000, then you're really going to have to watch to see if this gets upgraded to an enhanced risk. These systems can be tricky. The storms move very quickly. They catch people by surprise. We're stopping this at around 7 p.m. You got storms knocking on the doorstep of Des Moines, and these could really pack a punch with some damaging winds. If you do get a tornado, it's going to be moving decently quickly. But once this line moves through, the severe weather threat's done. And in fact, areas could see wraparound snow. And cold air ushers in very quickly as basically a whole nother air mass shifts in. So be careful if you're in these areas of the U.S. for Saturday. We'll talk about that again tomorrow evening also. Here we go. We're going to start talking about this Arctic air. 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. So this is March 9th through the 13th. Well below average temperatures predicted. This is basically an 80 to 90% chance of below average temperatures happening in the north central U.S. And then, this is basically a classic looking dump of cold air that's going to move into the lower 48. Now, you notice the southeast is hanging on by a thread with that southeast ridge. The nose of that ridge still nosing in, keeping areas around average to just slightly above average. The cold air dump is going to definitely happen in this part of the country first. But you get into that 11th to 17th time frame. We're well into mid-March at this time frame. And now you start to see it kind of bleed east a little bit. But confidence is definitely lower because obviously it's much further far out. But, in general, there is incredible agreement by all the ensembles that there is going to be, I think, some type of big time outbreak as far as cold air. Using the term outbreak might be a little bit overused, but I really think this could be some nasty cold air, even for areas of the north central U.S. for March standards. So let's start this off by Sunday afternoon. It's pretty evident you're pretty much baking in the southeast for March standards. It could hit 85 degrees here today in Columbia, South Carolina, where I live. I think Sunday into Monday could be your warmest days of the year so far if you're in the southeast, depending on location. But you can obviously tell where there's a boundary. And you see this pocket of cold air, that's potentially where snow could fall with a second system that develops. And I'm about to show you that here in a second. But first off, I want to show you temperatures. So going forward here, this is just the operational GFS. You start to lose a little bit of that warm air as you're getting into midweek. But the southeast ridge is still trying to keep areas of the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida locked into that relatively warm air. But then you start to cool down a little bit for the country as a whole. But really, as you're getting into mid to late work week time frame next week, this is when big time negative below zero temperatures start to get into the Dakotas, Minnesota, and this is where your big time cold front sets up. This is for really a week from now. So this could change, but there's high confidence that there is going to be a moving cold front instead of a stationary front that's barely oozing east like we're going to see this weekend into early next week. This one's going to be moving. So here it comes. We're getting into next Friday morning. And, I mean, you have single digits getting into Missouri, into Illinois. I mean, I know that you're saying, well, that's not super, super cold. But, I mean, at this point, it's March 11th. And this is very cold air. You're, half of, I would say 70% of Texas below freezing next Friday morning. And then you see the eastern U.S., this is low temperatures potentially Friday morning. Potentially, I'm going to use that word a lot. You're above average. So you're still hanging on to that ridging a little bit. But as you're making it into Friday afternoon, maybe the last warmish day for a while for Georgia and the Carolinas. And then look at the cold air that starts to move in. This is next Saturday morning. Potential low temperatures. You have below freezing temperatures all the way into the panhandle of Florida. You have well into the teens across areas of Tennessee, even northern Alabama, north Mississippi. It's not like we've never seen this before, but this is pretty substantial cold air. Now, it's not just cold air. There is going to be storm potential with this too, and the Euro is just as impressive, and I'm about to show you that too, so hang on. But this is potential highs next Saturday, so about 9 days out, pretty far out, but you're pretty chilly for the eastern U.S. and the Ohio Valley, very cold. So we got to watch this. And then, I mean, you look at getting the next Sunday morning, you're well below zero. So something to watch. But I think as we maybe start to get into that, I don't know, maybe just after that mid-month time frame, maybe we start to rebound. Now, I know this is kind of small. I don't even use weather models that much because it's so small on the screen. But as you can tell, this is the Euro. This is getting into Monday afternoon, well into the 80s. Look at all this. But look at this boundary setting up. The entire southeast, mid-south is hanging on for dear life for spring. You keep moving into midweek next week. This is just kind of average cold temperatures for this time of the year, settling in for about the midweek time frame next week. But this is the cold coming in. This is temperatures potentially Thursday afternoon, a week from today. You're looking good, 60 to 70s, and then you have what you call a blue northern almost. Well, what some of the old timers call it, where you have a sharp cold front that moves through, and you're locked into the single digits into Nebraska, the Dakotas, and then you're getting into Friday morning. The front's moving, and then look at this. You're all the way into the 40s, all the way into the coastal sections of Texas, and then this big-time cold air settles in. Now, I know we're almost 10 minutes in, and you're thinking, well, show me some kind of big storm system or something. I'm coming with that, so give me 1 second, and I got you covered, promise. But I want to show you the cold air potential first. It really sets this up. So this gets into next Saturday morning. I mean, look at all this. Look at this cold air shooting into the U.S. You got, well into the teens, pushing the 10-degree mark in areas of the Ohio Valley, and this cold front is on its way to the southeast. And then as it pushes through the southeast, I mean, this is potential low temperatures next Sunday morning. I mean, you're into the teens, the single digits in the mountains, the teens in areas of North Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, single digits showing up for areas of Tennessee, and just very cold across the Ohio Valley. And a lot of this is due to the fact that the European wants to drop a snowstorm, a big significant snow event for areas. Let's look at as far as what it looks like with these storm systems flying around in the GFS. We move through that system. Here comes the second system. Starts right in that boundary. This has consistently been showing some snow for areas like Kansas, northern Missouri, and maybe getting into Illinois. And then we're getting into next Tuesday morning. We watch this system. How much does this boundary trend south? And that will help this low pressure depending on how far south this boundary travels. Really depends on what this low pressure does as far as its track. So we're getting into next Tuesday afternoon, for example, light snow into the interior northeast, but in general, not a big deal. Now, really, there's a lot of areas in the south that need rain, like me here in the Carolinas. We need rain, but so hopefully we can get some scraps from these systems because there is a lot of areas that need rain. But as we're getting into midway next week, you have a big piece of northern stream energy, and then you have kind of a Gulf low sitting right here. There is going to be energy that comes down with this big-time Arctic front. And what I'm saying is you're going to have a cold front, and then you're going to have snow that kind of trails it. And then as we're getting into about a week from today, you got a lot of snow breaking out in the middle of the country with a low pressure over here. But these two pieces of energy are pretty far from each other. Now, I'm talking about a setup that's a week from today, so it's hard to get details about it regardless. But it shows you the potential. Cold air right here, definitely some energy setting up right here, and then you have this southern branch energy right here. If they combine, it'll be a big system. But watch what happens after this. You get another enhancement of rain that comes up right here, some moisture. Then the cold front. This is the deep digging cold front that I just showed you on the latest GFS and Euro. Look at all this snow starting to break loose in areas of Tennessee. This is very close to being a significant storm system as we're getting to about the 8 to 9 day range. It's just something we have to watch here. And then the nasty cold air digs in and pretty much shocks any kind of growth that's developed and will definitely stun it for definitely several days here. And then we'll have to see how the pattern remains after that. But that's pretty far out. As far as what the Euro is showing, first system moves in, second system, kind of the same as a GFS, wants to deliver a little bit of snow for the same areas that just saw maybe severe weather 48 hours prior or maybe even 36 hours prior. So, you know, places like Iowa and northern Missouri could see severe weather Saturday afternoon and evening. And then by the time you get into overnight Sunday into Monday morning, you're seeing snow. That's just how it is. It's not super rare, but the weather's crazy in the spring and fall when you have the changing of the seasons. But this moves into areas of the Ohio Valley. It looks like mainly rain, but we'll watch it. This all depends on this kind of the track of this low pressure and where this boundary is sitting. But you got snow breaking out in the interior northeast. That moves through. And then here comes our Arctic front, energy associated with it. It's dropping down. And then you have another low pressure, what we call an APS runner, which is running. It's basically a low pressure that cuts. It's called a cutter. And it basically runs the spine of the Appalachian Mountains. But you have cold air coming through here. So this turns into a snowstorm for Tennessee. A little bit of snow showing up for North Alabama. Now, guys, when I am explaining these models and just telling you really what they show, please don't think, hey, you know, there's a chance of snow next Saturday. I wouldn't look at this and call it chances. It's one model run. But I really think this is the storm I'm talking about. Well, I think there's going to be a big system, maybe late next work week into early next weekend, maybe the weekend in general, next weekend. And I think there's going to be a big system around. We'll watch. But the cold air is digging. You see what this last blue line is? That's pretty much telling us that cold air is digging into the middle of the country in the eastern U.S. And it's catching up with this moisture. Therefore, you have a big-time interior, mid-Atlantic, northeast snowstorm that wraps in with deep, nasty cold air that really moves all the way down into the southeast. So what's causing this? Well, look here. It's a pretty simple setup. We'll start this midway next week. Cold air sets up here. You get ridging in Alaska, and you basically have a cross-polar flow. But you see this kind of reddish color right here? That is ridging. Ridging is still saving the southeast by the time you get into midweek next week. It's keeping areas like the Carolinas, Georgia, Florida, maybe even areas of Virginia and just the Southeast in general, the interior, the extreme Southeast, like the states I just mentioned, it's keeping you all around average temperatures. But eventually, this troughing and this cross-polar flow, this Arctic air is going to start to inch into the middle of the country and then start to move into areas of the eastern U.S. as you're getting into really late week next week into next weekend. And you see this blue, this is just basically where the potential for troughing is setting up. Cross-polar flow is setting up. And then you almost try to get some blocking in Greenland, but not completely. But we'll have to see what happens. But this looks like an intense cold shot. It really does. And as far as what temperature anomaly showing the GEFS ensembles here, you stay above average for the Southeast. It's a big-time battleground of temperatures. But you see the cold air starting to move into the central U.S. I really think the central U.S. could see an extended period of below average temperatures. I'm talking about, a week, maybe longer. But then here comes the true Arctic air mass. This is temperatures, 10, 15, 20, 25 degrees below your average temperature for this time of the year. But you still get saved by the Southeast Ridge. Even getting into a week from now, 8 days from now, you're still above average in the eastern U.S. But you keep this moving, and it's inevitable. This Arctic air eventually starts to move into the eastern U.S. I have to see how intense it is, though. So that's all I got, guys. Cold air is coming, unfortunately. Honestly, me being a big winter weather fan, I like the idea of getting really cold air in fall than spring. That's just me. I like the idea of getting a freak early season winter storm in November or December. But it almost seems like you need to replace December with March. Or maybe I said that wrong. It almost seems like December should be technically a meteorological fall month. December, January, and February are all, those 3 months are considered meteorological winter. But to me, sometimes I think that you almost should consider January through March that. But it obviously just depends on the years, guys. So obviously that's not a thing. But that's all I got, guys. I'll give you an update on the weather tomorrow for Friday. And I hope you all guys have a great evening. God bless everybody and stay safe.